Hello there. Good evening, everyone. This is Dari on WorldStreams Radio. Thank you to our listeners from all over the world for joining us tonight. And hi there to our friends here in our virtual auditorium on paltalk.com. To learn more about WorldStreams Radio, visit our website at worldstreams.org. Our guest tonight is John Tirman. John Tirman is the author of several books on global affairs and more than 100 articles in a wide range of periodicals. He's now executive director of MIT's Center for International Studies, where he's also principal research scientist. Previously, he was a program director at the Social Science Research Council, a Fulbright Senior Scholar in Cyprus, Executive Director of the Winston Foundation for World Peace, Senior Editor at the Union of Concerned Scientists, and also a research reporter at Time magazine. His books include 100 Ways America is Screwing Up the World, Spoils of War, The Human Cost of America's Arms Trade, and Making the Money Sing, Private Wealth and Public Power in the Search for Peace. Hi there, Saeed. Hello and welcome, John.
Hi, well, nice to be with you.
Thank you.
Hello there, John. Good evening.
Hello.
It's good to have you with us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I was thinking, and I'd like to welcome all our audiences here from around the world as well. I was thinking, if you haven't written this book and you waited till Joe the plumber became to the scene, would you have added maybe made it 101 ways instead of
Well, the publisher made me stop at 100, so there was a lot more to say, even 2 years ago when I published that book.
Your book is extremely exciting, especially the references on it and so forth. I'd like to talk to you about an article you wrote in the Boston Globe, which was dated August 15, 2008. The title on it, What Counts as Success in Iraq? In that article you wrote, perhaps more important are the costs of the venture. And you went on to say, for Iraqis, of course, the costs are colossal. While there is a dispute among experts about how many Iraqis have died as a result of the war, the numbers range from 200,000 to 1 million, and very likely a mid-range estimate is correct. The Iraqi government reports 1 million or more war widows. About 3.5 million Iraqis have been displaced by the war, most of them living in difficult circumstances in Jordan and Syria. A new study from the Brookings Institution labels the refugees, many impoverished, as a looming crisis for the entire region, end quote. Now, there seems to be a general agreement on the number of casualties from the U.S. side. Yesterday, the Pentagon released its official numbers showing that since the war started, 95,236 civilians were killed. And I'm quoting a report on CNBC that I watched yesterday. What do you think this discrepancy in numbers is attributed to?
Well, there's a controversy about counting or estimating the number of people who have been killed in the war. Some of the discrepancy comes from who you're counting and how you're counting. The who you're counting part has to do with civilians versus others. Iraq Body Count, which is an NGO in London, has numbers that are most frequently cited by the news media, and it's very close actually to the Pentagon number. But they only count civilians who have been killed by violence in Iraq, and that those deaths can be verified by English language accounts, journalistic accounts. That leaves out a lot. It leaves out people who are not considered to be civilians. They could be insurgents. They could be other kinds of security forces. It leaves out a large number of people who, of course, are not reported in the newspapers. And the fact that
violence victims.
Yes, violent victims who never make it into the newspapers, and that is likely to be a very high number. And it also leaves out people who have died by other means, not by violence necessarily, but died as a result of a breakdown in the society, breakdown in health services in particular. There was a household survey which was done by the Ministry of Health in Iraq in mid 2006 that found 400,000 people had died, and more than half of them they found had died from nonviolent means. And when I say they died, these were what we call excess deaths, people who died in numbers that were larger than what the pre-war mortality rate was, so they're considered to be attributable to the war. So we know that there are really a large number that are not captured in these kinds of counts that the Pentagon and the news media has done. And my estimate now, I just had a piece in the Nation magazine here that uses these household surveys, which is the most accurate way of estimating, because it's a randomized sample, basically like an opinion poll, except you're asking if anybody in the household had died in the last period of time, and then using that statistically to estimate the total for the country. And there've been several of these surveys, and while there's still large differences between them, they're all much higher than that Pentagon number. So you're really looking at probably upwards around 800,000 to 1 million excess deaths in the 6 years of the war.
So the 95,000 reported by the Pentagon is very much an official number related to the statistics that they have access to only.
Well, they use, I haven't looked at the report directly, but I have seen other reports that the multinational force, which is what they're called there, have reported. It's online, anybody can look at it. They're quarterly reports, and in the past, anyway, they have used numbers from reports to them, to the military, plus a couple of other sources like the morgue data and things like that. But these are what we call passive surveillance method, which is that you wait and have somebody report to you. Active surveillance, which is what the household surveys are, you go out and ask the question, and they're much more likely to be accurate. That's the experience of epidemiologists. It's hard to do it in the midst of a war, so that's why I think there are large discrepancies between the estimate that was published in the Lancet, for example, in October 2006, and this Ministry of Health, 400,000 in the Ministry of Health, 650,000 in the Lancet report. But in either case, you have to remember that those were as of mid-2006.
Right.
And since mid-2006, according to the Iraq body count, which is, counting them from newspaper reports, there have been twice as many deaths. In other words, there have been as many deaths since 2006 as there were before. So we're really up in very, very high numbers now, and no one's ever really going to know. But you also have other data, like the number of refugees you spoke about at the top of the show. You have actually between 3.5 and 5 million, depending on, again, on how you count, displaced people. In most wars, the ratio of displaced to fatalities is about 5 to 1. It can vary. It can be a narrower ratio, like East Timor was 1 to 1.
Yeah, depending on the demographics, very much.
Depending on a lot of things, the level of the killing, the kind of war it is, and so on. But it's rarely actually more than about 5 to 1. So we have nearly 5 million displaced people in the Iraq War, which would translate, using that ratio, into 1 million